Hi everyone, and today we are going to discuss on a topic that has always been avoided by many people, and it's one of the hardest conversations to bring about, especially when you are talking to people that you have a connection or a relationship with, and that is saying no to money requests. Yes, we have all had experiences or encounters where a friend or a family member or someone we know very well approached us and requested us to give them money, and to be honest, you wanted to say no, but you didn't, or you couldn't, or you just didn't know how to say it. Welcome to Financial Wellness with Sheila Mbonga. Today we are going to discuss on how to say no to money requests without having to feel guilty or feel some type of way, in a nice way. One of the most awkward conversations that tops the list is saying no to money requests, especially to the people that we know, and in a nice way. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can say no to money requests in a nice way and without feeling guilty. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you haven't, we encourage you to subscribe so that we can get to learn more about money, ultimately helping you achieve your financial goals. So we are going to dive in right away, but before we do that, I would encourage you to follow us on our Instagram, that is at Financial Wellness Center, as well as like our Facebook page, Financial Wellness Center, for daily money tips. So we'll go right in the topic for the day. Now, sometimes a friend, a family member, or someone that you really have a special connection with may approach you to ask to borrow money, or they may want you to co-sign a loan for them. And sometimes when they place that request, you don't have the money at that time, or you just don't want to give them that money, or if it's in the case of a loan, you don't want to co-sign them. Maybe you have other things that have a priority, or you just don't want to have a loan co-signed under your name. Now, we all know that lending money can change the dynamics of a relationship, whichever relationship it is, in just a second, and lead to resentment and sometimes conflict, especially in situations where the money is never paid back or not paid back on time. In my line of work, I have met people who they've had to end very great relationships just because lending money was involved. Maybe one person lent the other money and the other person did not pay back on time, or they refused to pay completely, and the worst part of it is they act like nothing happened and they expect you to keep on having the same relationship that you had. So lending money and saying no to money is something that is very critical, especially to relationships. Now, having said that, I'm going to share with us some tips on how you can say no to money requests, and in a nice way. Of course, this is a hard thing to do, but just because it's hard, it doesn't mean it cannot be done. How you do it matters a lot, and also matters a lot and determines the bearing of the relationship afterwards. It might break it or make it. So the first way you can say no to money requests nicely is by being clear, concise, and nice. That is one line. So you will be clear. You don't have to try to say no. You just say, okay, I'm really sorry, I totally understand what you're going through, and I would really love to help you, but at this time I am not able to lend you the money. or I'm currently engaged in other things that require my financial resources, therefore I'm not able to give you the money. Now that is on the side of someone who is asking you for money, or if they are asking you to co-sign them for a loan. Now in the case where the person you already lent the person money and they are not planning to pay you back, or the time period for repayment has elapsed, you can approach them and ask them, like, you borrowed money from me and the agreed repayment period has passed, so may I know what's the reason behind that? So now that you have told the person no, you told them maybe you have a policy, you've also mentioned to them that you're being very clear with your no, you told them no and you didn't have to explain that. Now you may as well say no to money requests in a nice way, by learning to by offering to help in other ways. Now, for example, and this is something that I've practiced quite a number of times, someone can come to you and request you for a certain amount of money, and at that time maybe you don't want to give them, or you don't have the money, but you have an idea on of where or on what they can do to get that money. Be courteous enough to share that idea to them, and then let it remain at their disposal to make that choice, to choose that idea. Or you can offer to let them know, maybe I don't have this much amount of money, but I have the network, or I have this thing that you can do. Or you can even let them know, like, you know what, you have a certain product or a certain item in your house and you've not been using for ages. Why don't we declutter and sell it? So most of the time, what I've come to learn, most of the time when people try to borrow money, they've reached a point where maybe they feel maybe they're desperate sometimes, or maybe they just can't think outside the box and the only option they're seeing is borrowing money. Now you who is not in that situation, you are at a good point to be able to pinpoint other ways they can get the same amount of money without having to either borrow from you or borrow from anyone else, including an institution. So always be your friend's keeper. Give them other ideas. Don't just let them hanging, especially if it's something that you can give them another way out rather than money. Now, just to note, when you give them other ways to get the money or to raise the money, you're still helping to alleviate their need without money directly, and still that is a huge amount of support you can show to someone. I remember this time someone approached me and the person needed some amount of money, and at that time I wasn't in a position to give the person that money, plus I didn't want to do that because I knew maybe it would lead to other consequences. But what I did is I directed the person to something, or to a place where she could get the same amount of money in an easy way and in a more flexible way, and it worked out perfectly. And I helped the person, not really directly but indirectly, but all the same I was able to be of help. Now, the other way to learn to say no to money in a nice way, especially for the generous people. I know we have some people who are just generous. That is their personality. They can't help it. They can't remove it from themselves. So how do such kind of people navigate? Because for them, they can't say no. I mean, they are too kind to say no. They are too generous to say no. They can't afford to stand up and tell someone no. What happens to such kind of people? Well, If you are one of them, don't feel bad. Maybe that is your personality and we cannot change it. What you can do is create a giving fund. We are not telling you to start becoming selfish and stingy and all that, but what we are trying to say is create a giving fund. Now, this is something, it has also worked for me, whereby you create a fund every month and it has to be reflecting in your budget that you will be giving out this amount of money to whatever problem or whatever that comes to you. And once you've exhausted that fund, this is now what is usually hard to do, but you have to stop. You don't give at all. Even if everything in you is telling you to give, you don't do that. It's like pressing an emergency brake, you just do that. So until you get to your next budget month or year. So if, for example, you set $100 as your giving funds this month, if it happens by date 10 you've given all your $100, then you have to exercise some discipline and wait until the next month when you will have the fund again to give. So this again falls into you being super disciplined, and view it not as a way to make you stingy, but as a way of being healthy with your finances for yourself. Now, for example, you know that you're very generous, you're very kind. You can set up that kind of fund so that if anyone comes to tell you like, oh, I need money, oh, this has happened, can you lend me some money, you give it to them. And the good thing with the giving fund, you don't attach the expectation that this person will pay you. If they pay you, well and good, it will refill in the fund. But if they don't, you're still okay because you had already planned for it. Most people get disappointed when others don't repay their money on time. Now, number 2 is don't drag it out. Don't prolong it. When someone makes a money request of you, it's totally acceptable to respond with, I need to think about it. Or you can just tell them, allow me time to go over it. Sometimes it's easier to weigh the pros and cons of giving or lending money without the person right in front of you. You know that? So I always tell people to at least take 24 hours, especially when it comes to making a decision that's going to have consequences to your relationship. So, for example, if a friend came and told you, you know what, Sheila, please lend me this amount of money, or please co-sign me for this loan, the wisest thing to do is request them to give you some time. I usually say at least 24 hours for you to think and weigh the pros and cons. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't completely lend our friends money or co-sign our friends and family, but you have to weigh the pros and cons of what will happen in case the person defaults or the person is not able to pay you. Will it affect your relationship with the person? Now, if once you've asked for the small time to think about it, please don't take it to be months. If you told the person, please allow me time, at least be specific, 24 hours or 2 days or 1 week. Don't just go mute on them just because they asked for your help. Remember, most people will not approach you for such a request unless they are in a situation, and most of the time maybe they've weighed out all their options. So it's good for you to revert back, especially if your answer is going to be no. Don't take too long to say no or reply with your no. Now, the other point on how you can say no to money requests nicely is make it a policy. It's very easy to when you have a policy where you say, okay, I'm not going to loan anyone money or co-sign anyone money, whether it's my best friend or my family or anything. make it a policy, and not just known to you, but let it be known even to them, so that they know, or they don't have the expectation that they will get money from you. Now, for example, when someone approaches you and requests for money, you can simply tell them, I have a personal policy to never lend money to friends or family. That's it. So you don't have to say yes to them and then go in your closet and start feeling guilty that you said yes, yet you really wanted to say no. So it's okay to tell the person that, you know what, I do have a personal policy that I don't lend. So finally, as you've said, you'll create a giving fund. Once your fund is exhausted, you don't give until the next month or the next time. It could be yearly or semi-yearly. Now, as I was saying, a lot of people, they get disappointed when others don't repay them their money on time because they didn't plan for not getting that money back. So a giving fund helps you to be able to give money without attaching. Now, in the case of co-signing, this doesn't apply because you are co-signing someone and it's up to them to decide whether to repay the loan or not, but the consequences might affect you. So you have to be very careful, know the terms and conditions of the loan, assess the person, their capability of repaying the loan. Don't just co-sign with your emotions, co-sign with facts. And this goes to the ladies especially. We understand we are emotional beings, but there comes a time that you have to put your emotions aside and think with facts. Don't just co-sign or go into consigning without knowing the terms and policy, the details of the loan, and assessing the financial capacity or capability of that person. With that said, I would love to know, how else do you get to say no to money requests in a nice way? Share with me in the comment section. I'll be going through them and getting to hear from you. So until then, ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on our Instagram and Facebook, and let's keep living financially healthy.